I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Karen Holton. Be sure and check out my films. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. And I'm booking guests for July and August. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Karen Holton. She is an experiencer, holistic coach, author, and host of the Quantum Guide Show and Aliens and Angels podcasts. Karen, welcome back. How you doing?
Doing great, Chris. Thanks. I mean, I could complain, but nobody would listen.
It's great to have you back on. Always enjoy our conversations. Today, you're going to be sharing updates about some of the things that have been unfolding in Canada that most people here in the States have little to no awareness of. So far, it seems that we've been quite fortunate here that we haven't been subjected to some of the highly dystopian agendas that are being rolled out over there. There's a lot that I haven't even been aware of, so I'm really looking forward to sharing this information. Before we get into it, remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Thank you, Chris. So my channel on YouTube and other platforms is Karen Holton TV. If you want to watch my videos, I have two podcasts. One is on Wednesday afternoon. It's live and it's called the Quantum Guide Show. And I invite people on that have something positive that they're doing or discovering or something, to help enhance our human existence. I have a second show on Sunday afternoons called the Aliens and Angels podcast. And there I interview people who are experiencers, abductees, contactees, anything within that realm, but also the angelic realms and the other non-corporeal realms as well. It's a very interesting show. I'm part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, so you can find my all my offerings, all my shows under the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. That's sort of the umbrella, and everything is under that. What else? I've written a book. I've had some real life ET contact. It's unbelievable. I don't expect anyone to believe me, but I wanted to write about it, and I felt compelled to publish my book to share it with everybody, but also to reassure others that are having similar kinds of contact that I've had. And I guess that is about it. Oh, I also want to add that although we're going to be covering today pretty well sticking to the 3D world, and I'm reporting in from Canada, but I want everyone to know that I'm not a journalist. I'm not a news person. I don't have a news channel. I don't have sources and proof or any of that stuff. I'm just talking as a concerned Canadian citizen about what's going on in Canada, not as any kind of an expert. And if you want to know more, y'all can Google it and go down all the rabbit holes that I'm going to introduce you to today. So I think that's about it. Thanks again, Chris, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, and much love out there to the audience.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's get into some of the events that have been unfolding. What are some of your observations about life in Canada that maybe we aren't aware of here?
Well, up until about a year or two ago, time goes by pretty fast, I lose track. We had Justin Trudeau as our prime minister. He's our equivalent of the president. And he was really into this WEF Agenda 2030 stuff. And so he set things up really well for that. And while those things were starting to get rolled out, people were so outraged that he ended up stepping down, and then a fellow by the name of Mark Carney stepped into his place. And Mark Carney is a banker, so we went from having an actor to having a banker, and neither one is very well grounded in reality, in my opinion. but this Mark Carney guy, he's like Justin Trudeau on steroids. He's got us all signed up for the WEF, zero carbon emissions, and all their evil plan and machinations. He's just rolling it out like crazy. He's not answering to anybody. They've got to the point now where when there are committees looking into some of his decisions, they're no longer videotaped. They're no longer released. So the public has no idea what's going on behind doors. Meanwhile, he did not get a majority in Canada, and you need a majority to pretty much introduce your plans without too much opposition. So what he's been doing is, we don't know how, because we're not allowed to have that information, but he's been going to other politicians regardless of the party. So in Canada, we have like 5 parties, maybe more. Whereas, in the States, you guys only have 2. Well, he's been going and poaching members from other parties. We don't know what he's paying them. We don't know what he's offering them. No one's telling, but they're crossing what they call crossing the floor. So they're beefing up Mark Carney's liberal caucus and making it so that he has more and more and more power. Meanwhile, the conflict of interest with him being a banker, I mean, he even moved his company to the US before he became the prime minister. He has dual citizenship, maybe multi-citizenship, we don't know how much, and he wants Canada to be part of the EU, which nobody wants. So now, before he actually came in, I'm wondering, should I get into the MAID program now, or do you have any questions before I move on?
I look at the situation here, and in our situation here, voting is most likely not going to solve any problems, because that system is highly corrupted as well. And it's not likely that the candidate that you really want to get in there is going to. And if it does, there's levels of fraud behind everything. On top of that, the candidates here in the United States seem to be actors and people that are placed in certain positions to get certain agendas through. And even if they do have good intentions going in, they are quickly assimilated to the Borg, and those intentions are gone.
Yep.
I'm not sure how the power structure is placed in Canada. I don't know how your voting system works or anything, but I'm sure that there's just as much corruption trying to deal with and understand who you're putting in office there as well. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, even the fact that Justin Trudeau, how did he become prime minister when he was a failed drama teacher? And they're actors. Some of them are sincere because their livelihoods depend on it. So they have to brainwash themselves into believing what they're saying is true. Otherwise, they're not going to get their $350,000 a year income, their trips, their beautiful living in nice, safe, beautiful homes, all the best of the best. They're not going to have that. And it seems that human greed, there's no end to that. So they may believe what they're saying, but it's just not true. And they're completely removed from the reality of the working class people who make up the majority of citizens, at least here in Canada. So, and just to give you an example of how out to lunch they are, they decided that they would bring in the MAID program. MAID stands for medically assisted or assistance in dying. So they brought it out. They brought it out because they said that people who have terminal illnesses, they're suffering beyond what they can handle. They're going to die anyway. Let them have a physician-assisted suicide. And that kind of makes sense, right?
It kind of makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But then they've escalated it and escalated it. May be the leading cause of death in Canada right now.
What?
It is unbelievable. So, for instance, there's report after report after report, not on mainstream media, but certainly I would say Rebel News and certainly all the alt media channels. You guys, if you're interested, you could check out Moose on the Loose. You could check out Clyde Do Something. You could check out Rebel News. There's tons and tons of alternative media organizations now that are exposing this stuff. So anyway, what's happening is there's all these reports coming in from people that go to the emergency room because they've had a bad fall, they've hurt their back, something non-life threatening, but causes a fair amount of distress. While they're in the emergency waiting, and I have to overlap here with the immigration crisis in Canada, which is nuts again. So it's very difficult to get professional help, medical help. You might go to the hospital and they'll tell you have a 24-hour wait. We literally have people dying waiting to see a physician. There just isn't enough services, housing, infrastructure to handle the huge immigration crisis. So there's that. So you have these people, they're in the hospital, they're suffering, they can't have any medication, they can't have anything for their pain because they haven't seen the doctor yet. So what happens? Somebody comes around, what we call the death doctors, and they suggest the MAID program. So while these people are in so much pain, they can't even think straight, they're being offered the MAID program. Which is just nuts. They're offering the MAID program to people who don't have enough income to have housing. Like, again, getting back to the overlap or intersection with the immigration crisis. There are people who are being offered MAID because they're autistic or they're depressed, like for anything at all. Catch them while they're really, vulnerable, and then offer them the MAID program. So just going to give you a couple examples to show you how nuts this is, okay?
Yeah.
So recently reported in our Canadian news, there was a man who was having some issues. I don't know what they were exactly. The doctor told him to meet him in front of the Tim Hortons that was in their, in their community. The doctor met him out front of a Tim Hortons, which is a fast food coffee place, and approved him for the MAID program and actually gave him a ride to the place where the MAID program would be administered. And it was a huge warehouse where they process the dead, where they give them the MAID program, they give them the pills. There's 3 medicines they give to them. I'll talk about that in a minute too. And so this is the kind of stuff that's going on. So these doctors are really cashing in. They get paid a ton of money to off people. And they'll just show up in front of a coffee shop and not even have a proper interview, sign the paper, and even give you a ride to the facility. How nice is that? So, I mean, that is
so are there any
insane.
specific qualifications that you have to meet to be in this program? Or could you say, stub your toe and it's too painful, I want to die?
Well, I think technically there is criteria, but nobody's following up on it. Nobody's following up because no one gives a shit if another dead, sick or depressed person goes down the tubes. Nobody cares. There isn't enough infrastructure for them anyway. And so this is what's happening, and it's happening a lot. So there's nobody checking up on it. Even these cases that have come out and everyone's finding out about it and we're horrified. There's nothing we can do in Canada. It just seems no matter how we turn, there's nothing we can do. We're just railroaded the same way we were during COVID. Same. So this same doctor, by the way, he administered the drugs for the medically assistance in dying cocktail, and he didn't bring with him all of the 3 medications. He only brought with him 2. And so it turned out that the person didn't end up dying. Well, they did die, but then they came back to life. And so this is how slipshod this program really is. And like I said, I think it's over 100,000 Canadian citizens have now been exterminated in this way. And then this also overlaps with the organ harvesting. Now, here's the really
Oh,
creepy
shit.
part. And if your guests or are easily disturbed, you want to stop the show right now, because I'm going to tell you what happens. The drugs they administer are a slow kill protocol. It's not commonly known, but it is known that in order to use your organs for organ harvesting, they have to be harvested while you're still alive. So think about that, what
Really?
that might be like. Yes, 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 yes. They're no good. Once you die and your life force completely leaves the body, there's a change in our physiology. So if you want a nice ripe organ, you need it from a live person. And so what the drugs that they give them cause them to very slowly suffocate, very
Yeah.
slowly in their own fluids. And so can you imagine being trapped in a body? You're given a paralytics. You can't move. You can't say anything. You can't blink. You're completely frozen, but you're fully conscious in your mind.
You're given
And
a
you're,
paralytic?
yeah. And then you're very slowly suffocated. So the protocol, this
What?
protocol were originally used in the US for killing criminals. Instead of
Lethal
hanging them, they
ingestion?
would give them the drugs. But then they
Yeah.
determined that this was inhumane. And so I don't know what they're using now. But then Canada bought all their crappy drugs and is using it for the MAID program. Yeah, let's not waste
What?
those drugs, right? So this is the truth about what's happening. Of course, by that point, you can't move, you can't do anything. And then they start harvesting your organs before you're gone. So that is what's happened. So it's been a complete, like most things in our societies, a perversion of something that's introduced, gains a certain amount of approval because it seems logical, seems to make sense. And then it's slowly changed and changed and changed. And Canadians have been outraged for a number of years, and there doesn't seem to be anything we can do about it. Thing is caught up in so much red tape, or if you want to take the government to a higher court or anything like that, you're looking at years and years of this going on. So, and then this, I'll stop and see if you have any questions before I go on to how this now overlaps with the mental health incarcerations that have started here.
Are there specific doctors that deal in this, or can you sign up at any hospital, any clinic? Is it readily available everywhere?
Yeah, but generally you have to go see a death doctor. That's what we call them. And you should
Okay.
see these death doctors. They're so creepy. Like the woman in
Oh,
Vancouver who's done, I don't know how many thousands of these assisted deaths. She just gets all excited and juicy when she's talking about the
oh man.
process and how wonderful it is. But the truth of the matter is, it's all about money, 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 money. We need a system based on something else. It's totally creepy. So anybody
Yeah.
can see a death doctor. You can call a death doctor. They'll meet in front of Tim Hortons. They'll sign the papers and give you a ride to the warehouse where you can have it
Jeez.
happen.
Was it
Yeah.
you that sent me the video about the Catholic priest that was offered?
Yeah. I sent you a bunch of little clips leading up to me being on your show, just so that you could see I'm not blown. Another woman just had back pain and they offered it to her. Somebody else, generally they have some kind of a health issue, and then they overlap that with so they qualify with maybe a mental health issue. They want to bring it out full bore for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to off all the people who are, whether it's depression, anxiety, whatever. That's been stayed so far. We've been able to slow that you have any of that and you have a medical thing or you're suffering pain, obviously they're going to off you and make you think it's a really good idea. They even had an ad out where this woman's she had terminal cancer and she planned her own death, and she had this wonderful ceremonies and got to do things and meet people she'd never thought she'd be able to, and she got to have all this closure before she got offed. And that's not the reality. And so I mean, telling you, the show green really comes to mind. You know, especially you know, in Canada, almost all the pork now is GMO. You can't even get real pig meat anymore. So I mean, they're moving us out of away from meat, but they're also destroying the vegetables. And now with, you know, the war with Iran, and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, there's huge issues because fertilizers can't get through. And so, you know, the writing's on the wall for anyone who has any mind to prep. Do it. Absolutely do it. So you add all that together. Now, the mental health one, do you want me to talk about that now?
This probably connects with the question I was about to ask, if they were offering it to people. I'm not sure who I heard that from or if it was true. Is it?
Yes, they are offering it to homeless people, because homeless people, just by the way they live, don't have the best health or the best mental health. It's pretty harsh, especially because the drug cartels in Canada is just skyrocketed a number of years. You know, the whole fentanyl in Canada. If you are a heroin addict or cocaine addict or any kind of drug, what they call recreational drug addict, you get free pain meds. And then you take your pain meds, you sell them to the kids, and you take the money and you go buy fentanyl. So there are block after block after block of major cities where all these people are not only homeless, but they're all like zombies because they're all on these drugs, and they're free. They're just given to them. They go to the pharmacy and the pharmacist gets paid. The Canadian government's putting the bill so everybody can get all their heroin. And well, actually it's worse than that, but that's, I didn't actually plan to talk about that, but that's another intersection point for all of this. So the mental health, they're now rounding up and incarcerating people they suspect as having mental health issues. And the disturbing case I want to talk about is the man. He was in a coffee shop having a coffee. He didn't go to the doctor. He wasn't under distress. He wasn't doing anything weird. He was just having a cup of coffee. Now, there is a bit of a backstory to this, that he had in writing to the government kind of evidence that they had been doing something wrong or something bad. I'm not a reporter, guys. I'm just a citizen, okay? But anyway, he's in the coffee shop. He's just having a coffee, minding his own business. Well, apparently a psychiatrist went into the same coffee shop to have her see, noticed him across the room and decided he was mentally ill and that he needed to be certified and committed to an institution. So she didn't even talk to him. He didn't talk to her. She knew nothing about him, but she filed the paperwork with the RCMP. Now, the guy was smart enough to have a cam going, and the police are saying, you have to know, I'm not turning it off. So that's how we know what went on. So the police pick him up. And the police officer says, based on the recommendations from the psychiatrist who saw you in the coffee shop, I'm now certifying you as being mentally ill. So now the RCMP, which is kind of like ISIS for you guys, right? In Canada, it's the federal police. They're able to pick anybody up under the new Mental Health Act rules. So then, of course, he was taken to an institution where they did a further assessment. I don't know what happened since then. So we noticed in Canada, and apparently this might be true in the US as well, is during the COVID era, they were building all these concentration camps, and they were claiming it was going to be for COVID patients to keep them away from the general population, but they never actually used them. So there's a chance. They've also been building tons of these places in the US. But guess what? It's for us, those of us who are uppity, those of us who rock the boat, those of us who expose what's really going on. So now a police officer could see me out in public, pick me up, certify me, and I'm in a mental institution having an in-depth assessment. Now, you know, those that know me know I deal with the paranormal. I deal with all the weird and wild and wonderful aspects of being human here on Earth. Boy, it's not going to be hard for them to figure me out and decide that, yeah, that I'm a nutter. A lot of people think I am. And, you know, I think that's up for debate. So there's that. So, and then that overlaps again with the whole MAID thing. So that's all going on, you know, regarding how they're affecting our health. So the other thing is, you know, I had some health issues and my doctor recommended me see a specialist. It took a year to see the specialist. The specialist ordered 2 tests for me to have. It took another year for me to have the tests. And then he didn't even have me back in the office. He just called me and says, gee, we're not quite sure. Based on the tests, the 2 tests that we did, we're not really sure what's going on. And I, at this point, went, you guys, you know, I'm not going to come see you so that you can afford a bigger vacation or whatever the hell you do with the money. And then that overlaps with the whole immigration and DEI hires. So they're hiring on DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they're only hiring people who come in from other countries. Now, I don't know about their qualifications. I have not done any research into that. Be perfectly qualified. I don't know. I'm not saying because I don't know. But the service is really shitty. Really, really, really shitty. And, you know, if you can barely understand what they're saying, like, love people, all kinds of people, all shapes, sizes, colors, origins. I love people. But, you know, when it comes to your health, you need to understand what the guy's saying. And they're all wearing masks. So you really have trouble hearing what they're saying. So they're still going by protocols from COVID. And it's been proven that all those protocols were bullshit, including the masks for a virus or anything. That's smaller than a particle that you would smell, and you could smell through a mask. So it's not, it doesn't work. But I think they're conning us. They're trying to prolong the con, but I think they're also under obligation from federal and provincial powers that be that say you have to follow what we say. So now the medical industry is being dictated by these same politicians who have no basis of reality with the common human being. So that's pretty disturbing. So do you have
A little bit
other...
off topic, but have you noticed an increase in adverse health effects or even deaths from people who have been jabbied there?
Absolutely, absolutely. Cancer's off the charts. There is in sociology, we learned that there's, quote, normal for a certain amount of people in a country or region to die every year. And then when more than that die, then it's, you know, considered unusual deaths. So the unusual deaths are very high in Canada. Cancer's big business. That's a really good money maker. You know, when you go into big cities like Vancouver, you see all these high-rise buildings. This one's for, I don't know, wart cancer, and that one's for, I don't know, penis cancer or whatever. And it's all the billions of dollars are being funneled through these systems. But I don't know anyone that isn't just getting the same cocktail they got that makes you very, very sick and, you know, only has a 20%, you know, survival rate. Those people might have survived anyway. We don't know.
That also probably connects with what's happening with MAID, because hospitals and doctors are probably getting huge kickbacks for even recommending that program.
Bingo. Bingo. And the other thing too is the politicians all of a sudden they go from having $1 million or whatever to suddenly having $50 million with no accountability. Where'd all that money come from? I wonder. Meanwhile, they want all of us to live on as little as possible, which leads me back into immigration again. Okay, so they have this thing in Canada, say a Tim Hortons. I'm just using that as an example. Do you guys have Tim Hortons?
Never heard of it.
Okay, do you have Starbucks?
Yes.
Okay, or Dunkin' Donuts, or any place where you can go and get a sweet and a coffee or a tea or a specialty
all
coffee.
over the place.
All caffeine driven. Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about when I say Tim Hortons. So in Canada, it's Tim Hortons, even though it's owned by a Brazilian conglomerate. It's not even Canadian. Okay, so say you go in and you apply there. It used to be that they would hire students, they would hire maybe women that are middle-aged that need to bring in a little bit extra. Or, you know, it's not everyone's favorite career, but it takes care of, you know, helping families in Canada to be able to make, you know, make their mortgage payments and live a little bit more comfortably. They have these second jobs. Okay, so what the Canadian government has done is told the say the coffee shop that they will pay half of the minimum wage to the coffee shop, and the coffee shop then only has to pay half the wages they would have to pay to a Canadian citizen. So if they hire someone who is an immigrant, and it's not even the kind of immigrants that we're okay with, you know, where they apply and they learn the language and they learn the basics of the culture, and you know they're you know they want to be Canadian. So we're not talking about those. We're talking about the nonstop flow of immigration that's happening here in Canada. These people, many of them don't speak English. They don't have the same standards. For some of them, not all of them, don't have the same standards. They've had to close public beaches because, you know, immigrant people, it's normal for them to take a shit at the beach, you know, but here it's disgusting, right? I'm not trying to zero in on any one ethnicity or ethnic group here. I mean, these are things that don't blend well in Canada.
Right.
So now the coffee shop guys go, wow, we're going to hire immigrant people because the government's going to pay half their wages and we money and we're doing a good thing because we're helping out the immigrants. So now if you are a Canadian citizen, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, especially if you are not of certain ethnicities, you can apply for the job, but you'll never get it. You don't even get a call back. So all these jobs that Canadians, and now that, you know, with the cost of living going up and everything else, more people are having to take on a second job or a part-time job, even though they're retired or whatever. Nobody can get work. So now you're having the middle class people and even below that, their kids are not able to move out. Their kids aren't able to get work. Also, we have this huge scam going with the universities. They make so much money from foreign students. They're just bringing in all these foreign students. Half of them, maybe even more. I know my daughter works in that industry, don't even show up, don't even come to classes, but that's how they get into the country. And then from there, they're funneling down. And I don't know exactly the story on what's going on with them. So you have to ask someone more with more knowledge than I have. Okay. So all of a sudden people can't get work, no matter how hard they need or how much they need a job, how hard they're going to work, what their work history is, they can't get work. So there's all of that going in. So also all the businesses are leaving, they're going to the States, they're going to Mexico. So the Liberal government under Mark Carney it. So there's very little economic growth. Everything is tanking. Meanwhile, there's a huge housing bubble and people can't afford homes anymore. And it's unless you're super wealthy, then, and that's who he's catering to, right? But with the censorship, which we haven't even talked about yet, that everyone blames the boomers. No, not all boomers are for the status quo. Trust me, I'm a about a boomer, but I don't fit the description. I'm also a Karen, and I don't fit that description either. But I'm just saying, they're the ones that are still watching TV, right?
Yeah.
And cable news and stuff. None of this is getting out. They don't know about any of this. And the politicians here, like probably in the US, they just lie. They're like compulsive liars. All they do is lie. And then, of course, fly all around the world on jets where they're supposed to be so concerned about our carbon imprint. Oh, it's okay because they can afford carbon credit. Like the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. Everything is like a Ponzi scheme. And so that's all going on. So yeah. And then the censorship, now what they're doing is no longer, it used to be that all the sessions in the legislature and stuff, and when they get together and they're looking into matters and, you know, um, some of the politicians are doing some really, really dirty backroom deals and stuff. And so now it used to be they were all video taped and you could watch live even on, YouTube and other channels. Well, not anymore. They're no longer closed door. Nobody can know what's going on. And they're making the congressman, or I'm sorry, I'm totally not into politics. I don't even know the right words
Oh,
to
it's all right.
use. But the members of the MLAs and stuff like that, they're having to sign non-disclosure agreements where they're not allowed to talk about what's going on behind these closed, like 10 years. So none of us will know about it. And of course, the liberals just keep doing the dance they do. And I'm not saying it would be a magically better if one of the other parties got in, Chris. So I want to pause now in case you have any questions. I want to talk a little bit about Alberta separation because that's the province where I live.
Sure. We touched on this in previous episodes. It connects with the censorship. There have been, in the UK especially, arrests made for information relayed online, people expressing certain feelings or thoughts. Is that unfolding in Canada? I'm not sure if I heard about any cases like that.
Yeah, it totally is. People are going to prison because they expressed an opinion on social media. That has happened in Canada and continues to escalate. But now they've just passed a series of these bills. Remember, I told you that the government wasn't strong enough to pull off some of these decisions, so they bribed somehow people from all the other parties, and they're constantly grooming them. And you know how in the States you have people who follow politicians around and give them money and gifts and all kinds of stuff because they're trying to sway the way that politician, what he's going to support or not support. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
So in Canada, they're doing that, but they're doing that too, but they're also doing that where they are part of the Liberal Party and they're going into the back rooms and pulling people, usually the ones that are not necessarily happy with reality, into their party so that they can pass these bills and things. So now they passed a series of censorship bills. So now it's legal for the Canadian government to contact any social media platform and have all your transcripts supplied to the government so the government can know and what we're doing. And they've also passed a bill similar to what you have in the States where we're all being monitored all the time, just in case, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you take any one of these things is horrific on its own, but when you add it to the MAID program, the new mental health incarcerations, you add it to and on, plus things are not going to get better. People could barely afford to eat in Canada. And I'm talking again about the working class, but I have to say, I think the middle classes aren't doing too good either because the writing's on the wall and they also are having trouble with, keeping their professional jobs and stuff going because people can't really afford to use them and the government can only subsidize so much because they need to spend all that fucking money in Ukraine, you know,
Yeah.
and it's insane. It's just
Is
insane.
there just an equally dystopian surveillance state emerging there with data centers and
Yeah.
AI utilized for law enforcement, all that stuff?
Yep, and it's been around in Canada for quite a while. They started talking about predictive programming where they could arrest you if they think you're going to commit a crime in the future. So that
Mm.
has already quietly been running with the RCMP, probably close to 10 years now since I heard about that. So that's
Wow.
also running. So Big Brother is always watching and always knowing, and whether it's whatever screen we're around, but I think now they've got the flock cameras and everything else, and they're
Mm.
trying to corral us into these 15-minute cities where we won't be able to leave unless we have a pass. Is happening, and it's all based on bullshit too. Like, for instance, the whole CO2 emissions thing, it's complete bullshit. And since that came out, remember in COVID, when COVID came out, there was no more flu. Okay,
Mhm.
so CO2 came out, and now the assumption is that's the big evil, and there is no other pollution. Meanwhile, our water's still being polluted, our air's being polluted. We got all the chemtrails, weather modification, we got all that shit's going on all over the friggin' world. So in Alberta, where I live, and Alberta's massive, guys, pick up your phone and take a look at a map to see how big Alberta is. Alberta's massive, and it's got everything that we need. It's got farms for food and for animals. It's gas, it's got technology. We've got two massive, well, one is pretty big, the other one that's coming is even more massive, data centers in the area. And actually, at the end, I'd like to speculate on what the data centers are for, if
Oh,
I
sure.
may.
Yeah, yeah.
But at this point, so Alberta, generally the guys that have all the money, they're into the oil and gas. It's funny, in Alberta, they don't all wear them, but quite a few guys wear cowboy hats and Western gear. And it's kind of like cowboys, kind of like Texas, right? We're in the
Yeah.
Texas of Canada. So anyway, they've decided that they're going to separate, and they collected over like something like
Oh, really?
350,000 signatures. So they had basically the premier of Alberta said, if you collect this number of signatures, we will put forth a referendum, and yet you guys can vote whether you want to. So they collected way more, 350,000, and they had it all together. It was a massive undertaking, and they did it in record time, and they had it to present to the government. And then the feds had a judge say, nope, this ain't going to happen. It's
Yeah.
unconstitutional. You didn't consult enough with the Indigenous people, and threw it out. And so all that work, all those signatures, all those hopes and dreams, everything gone. And about half of the Albertans are in favor of separation. Some would like us to join the states, be the 51st state. Some would like us to be independent. But I got to say, I don't think the plan is well thought out. And until I see evidence otherwise, I'm going to stick to my opinion. Can you imagine what it would take to police the borders around Alberta? I'm sorry, I should have Google searched how many square miles Alberta is, but it's got a border on the north, on the south, on the east, and on the west. A lot of it is through the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, terrain that's very difficult. Unless they had a massive uh, um, border patrol and drones and all of that, and the whole infrastructure, how would they be able to even, make that aspect of it happen? And then when you get to the politicians, come on, guys, for how long have we been told, oh, if you elect me, it's like the wolf who says to the sheep, if you elect me, I will become a vegetarian. It's like, we don't know, like, who has faith or trust anybody campaigning to rule any area. It all goes to shit one way or another. So my opinion is, and this is just my humble opinion, is that I'd rather deal with the devil I know than deal with the devil I don't know. Because at
Right.
least there's a certain amount of predictability with what's going on now. What are they going to do for money? That they'd have to have their own money system unless they join the US. And the US, no disrespect to you American friends of mine, but your country's in a mess right now, big fucking mess too. And y'all should be staying home and fixing what's in your own backyard, just like Canadians should be doing. If you took all the money that's being spent on war, all that money and brain power, and you put that into alternative ways that they could be making just as much money in the States. You could have some really cool dome cities up in Alaska that people would love to go live in. Japan has all kinds of artificial internal environments that they just love and take advantage of there. We could cure illnesses. We could have all kinds of cool stuff happening. Oh my God. And but no, it's all going to very few. And I don't know if anything can be done to stop it. But like I said, we've got the censorship, not knowing what's going on. We got no privacy because they can know everything about records, everything. It's even getting to the point where we're getting people call us if we haven't been to the doctor in a few years saying, well, you haven't gone in for your screening. You have to have your screening. You got to have someone check out your colon and your prostate and your ovaries and your boobs. And oh my God, it's like, get the hell away from me. Just in my opinion. Okay. So you got all that overlapping. But with immigration, we've got people coming in, they're not even vetted. They're killing people, they're stabbing people. Taking all the jobs is just a minor, tiny part of it. But now what's happened is with them coming in has also been the rise of organized crimes and the drugs. And I think they're trying to train wreck. Seriously, think they're trying to train powers that be are trying to train, I would say WEF loosely, are trying to train wreck Canada and probably the States too. And they're doing a good job. So there's all that. So I don't think the separation, the Alberta separate, I think it's like a cure-all. People think we can't stand this anymore. And then someone else stands up at the podium and says, elect us and we'll separate and we'll make your country beautiful and wonderful and we'll fix the healthcare. No, fix the healthcare system now in Alberta because it sucks. Absolutely sucks. And they think it's a great victory that now they have more surgeries. Yeah, well, maybe some of those surgeries wouldn't be necessary. Clean food and ways to de-stress, and the air was clean, and we had life advice. I don't know. Sorry, I'm a little bit riled up.
No, it's all good. This again comes back to how much are we willing to check out of the system? How much are we willing to live without these comforts, which more and more are consistently becoming increasingly toxic for us to interact with? Even what we're offered is degrading and declining. So in even interacting with a system where all we're offered is dog shit, it's about time to check out of it.
Yeah, so I do have some good suggestions, but there's one other thing I want to say, because they're still doing the climate hoax in Canada, and people are all worried we're destroying the planet, we're bad people. On all the food you buy, it's got they've just started doing this in the last little while, where it's got, oh, be careful, this has too much sodium and this has too much fat and this has, meanwhile it's not even true. Well, it might be true from their perspective, but their perspective is not an overall balanced, healthy perspective on how Canadians should be eating. Let me just put it that way. And then I want to talk a little bit about the forest fires. So every year we have all these massive forest fires everywhere. Oh, it's climate change. It's climate change. Well, you want to know what? When you watch the online video satellite recordings, these fires ignite all over the place, hundreds of miles, some thousands of miles between fires. They all ignite at the very same moment. Boom. And there's all these fires. Explain that one to me. If they were happening because someone flicked a cigarette out their window, or if it was happening from a campsite that didn't, close their campfire proper. No, it has to be arson. And so basically they will do whatever dirty thing they want that is going to force humanity to do what they want. It's their bidding. And you can fight against it, and you'll end up incarcerated, or you'll end up in a mental health institution, or you'll end up with a worse situation. So you pretty well kind of have to shut up and put up. And it's very frustrating. Now, I was an anti-poverty activist for many, many years. And I did all the protesting, the letter writing, the raising awareness. I did it all. And I burnt myself right out trying to bring about the changes. And none of it did any good. And I'm now to the point where I go, nope, that's not that kind of activism any good for anybody. It's just kind of like, pardon the expression, mutual masturbation. It takes care of something, but it doesn't really last and doesn't really do any good.
We're at a critical crossroads where we have to make some tough decisions about what we're going to give our energy to. Earlier, you mentioned you want to speculate a little bit about what could possibly be really going on with the data centers. Did you want to get into that?
Yeah, no, this is not based on any factual information whatsoever, guys. This is just me and conclusions. And I think, and I'm not even saying that this is going to happen. This might be completely wrong, okay? But I suspect that the reason they have so many data centers is they're running scenarios on all of us. They have all of our information. They have all our history. They have all our habits. They know us.
Yeah.
They know everything.
They're running simulations on the version, essentially.
Yeah, they're running simulations on digital versions of us, and I think they will use their findings to decide who is expendable and who isn't. Because let's get back to that's been talked about for a number of years, and is that the reducing of the world's population is well, very, very important to those who have the power and the money and the control. And so that's what I think they're doing. They are running simulations to see who they're going to get rid of and who might be of some use or value to them down the road. That's what I think.
On top of that, teaching the AI based on those simulated versions of us so that it can perpetuate itself, essentially.
It's giving it values. It's putting values. So according to the values they want it to follow, there are expendable crew members, and there are people that are worth keeping for this purpose or that purpose. God knows. After all, they eat people. So what else are they capable of? Once you find out they eat people, you just kind of like, yeah.
Well, last few minutes in the United States, we have the UFO files being released by Daddy Government. I've talked about this over and over. It's big nothing burger. Yeah. We've learned more from on the show than anything the files have had to offer us. But in Canada, is there similar UFO excitement going on?
I think people are, their knee-jerk reaction is to think that it's a bunch of bullshit and it's another distraction so that we don't notice, the AI takeover and stuff like that, so that we're not so focused on the wars and the money going to, said that, or I mean, I don't know, like, seriously, we're getting to the point in Canada where we're self-monitoring and self-censoring all the time. because it's not safe to be open and honest anymore. And so in order to do that, we're even censoring our thoughts. But Paul Hellyer came out, this is quite a while ago. This is probably 15 years ago, maybe longer, when they first started trying to bring about disclosure, and told everybody the government's working with 4 different, off-world races, and this has been going on for some time, and people have been trying to raise awareness. So I think in Canada it's kind of considered a cute cult following. Oh, isn't that cute? She believes in aliens. Oh, isn't that cute? She thinks she had right. Well, if you believe that, I've got a river I want to sell you. That kind of an attitude. And unfortunately, because of that, they're not gaining the wisdom they need that they could be getting from contact. And I got to tell everybody, this is also my opinion, and that is contact is a personal thing between you and the ETs. Now, ETs, they might be interdimensional, they might be from the angelic realms. I think they're a combination of a whole bunch of things, and I think some of them have been here probably for hundreds of thousands of years already, but existing in places we can't see them, or we're not exposed to them, or even interdimensional realities. Like more and more this is coming to light. But as in my experience, which is the only one I can really speak to, is that when we're ready, ET will contact us, or these beings will contact us. And I've had nothing but good come from it. It's helped me to prepare and to self-soothe and to understand what's going on. And it's really a very good relationship. On my show, Aliens and Angels, I interview all kinds of people who have these personal relationships with what I'm loosely calling extraterrestrials. And it's changed all of our lives for the better. We're more peaceful, we're more loving, we take better care of our bodies, we take better care of our mental health, our families. And let's face it, if you can find a way that works and we become more functional within ourselves, we then become more functional within our families, and that branches out to our communities, and that branches out to our countries. So all the horrors going on in the world is to get right within ourselves and to get right with God. I actually do believe in God. I don't believe it in a religious sense, but to me, I absolutely believe in everything. Some call it Holy Spirit, some call it universal consciousness, and it actually has intelligence, awareness, and is available to assist us when we're ready to ask for help. And so I think that the real true disclosure and contact is coming from those of us who've actually had contact ourselves, and we keep telling our stories and writing our books. I have a book out on Amazon called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors. And it's all about my experiences aboard what I call the big ship. It's beyond the scope of this show or programming today for me to get into it, but for those that are interested, there is that. And so what happens is we build a joy within, we develop our internal navigation system, we find our inner guru, we have spiritual and well, I would just say spiritual contacts that help us to understand things better. We become more functional, we become more centered, and we become happier. And with all this shit going on, man, it's a kind of relief that we're not getting from anywhere else. So I just encourage people to jump in with both feet. The water is awesome.
Right on, Karen. This was great information. Thank you so much for sharing. Before you go, remind the audience one more time how they can get a hold of all your content.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Well, Network, Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. If you want to listen to me on audio podcasts, I would really appreciate it. And if you like my stuff, please give me some stars and some feedback. That would be great. I have my YouTube channel, but I'm also on Odyssey, Telegram, Rumble, X, under Karen Holton TV. You can at Karen Holton TV. You can also find me at my website, and all my content is there. And I have a shop if you want to help support the work. That's www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. I'm a different kind of health coach. I help people to navigate their way through the crazy and the weird. And I'd love it if you could stop in and check out my website. And my book, I already mentioned my book, Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors, on Amazon worldwide. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Karen, thank you again. Of course, we will be talking in the future. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. See y'all then. Watch Doors of Perception, now on Amazon Prime. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family and their need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order. We live in an incredible age of information. More and more, we're discovering that we've been lied to and misled about much of our human history. Cory Hughes is providing profound revelations about World War I, World War II, the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination, and much, much more on his new Substack. Subscribe now for as little as $5 monthly. Just click that link right in the description to get started now and learn about it. Hello, friends. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description.